Welcome to Ageless and Outrageous, your favorite podcast about how to age amazingly. I'm urogynecologist and hormone and sexual health expert, Dr. Kristin Jackson. Every week, I share my over 25 years experience to guide both men and women as they age. Listen as I discuss a variety of topics, including hormone optimization, pelvic floor health, maintaining a vibrant sex life, weight gain issues, and skin, hair, and body changes as we age. It's happening to all of us, so listen for some solid scientific knowledge on how to handle these changes. Tune in for a dose of laughter, knowledge, and an honest perspective on the incredible adventure of growing older. So let's start with you. Tell me about your kind of personal journey, because I know obviously it's really important. Training and nutrition are really important to you personally. When did that start for you?
So, just to, as I said, I don't know if we said, but I'm a breast surgeon. I'm board certified in general surgery. So I've dedicated my career to breast health and treating breast disease, including breast cancer. And I've also follow high-risk patients, family history, genetic mutations, and make sure they're following the appropriate surveillance guidelines. But my role, of course, in breast cancer is removing the disease. And surgery's come a long way. We're not doing all the removing everything, muscle, all the breasts, lymph nodes, causing more complications and deformity down the road. But as I am seeing, Kristin, the amount of breast cancer, I just really want to point out 1 out of 8 women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. And even women without any risk factors, they have an 11 to 13% chance of developing breast cancer in their lifetime. And really, that's just because we have breasts, right? So unfortunately, that number is rising. And I always tell women, cancer does not discriminate. It can happen to anyone. My best friend was diagnosed with breast cancer early last year. And she's a breast radiation oncologist, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So
let's talk about that number, because I feel like a lot of people ask, why did I get breast cancer?
Exactly.
My mom didn't have it, and I don't take anything, I don't do anything that should have put me at risk. And it's really hard to kind of give them that answer that you have breasts, so you might get breast cancer, even if you do all things right.
Right. Like I said, it's just we have breasts and we just don't know. But what we know very well, that cancer is associated with variable risk factors, and that includes our diet and our lifestyle choices. And as much as I love operating and curing women, just knowing how non-discriminatory breast cancer is, and even if the cure rate is high, it still has such a significant effect on a person's life, emotionally, physically, mentally. Many daily lifestyle routines come to a screeching halt. Plans such as vacations, weddings, family planning, they have to be delayed, right? So for me, I wanted to figure out not just to take them to surgery, but how do we teach my women, our patients, how to protect themselves? As I said, there's no surefire way to 100% prevent breast cancer, but there are just various ways that can be adopted to significantly decrease that risk. And that is actually what's led me to my own fitness and bodybuilding journey.
Okay.
So
great.
Yeah. So after doing more research on lifestyle changes, I remember telling myself, how can I counsel my own patients when I myself was not in the best health and I was overweight? At that, Kristin, 3 years ago, I was clocking in a BMI of 30, which is obese. It's obese.
Yeah, exactly. And it creeps up on you. You don't feel that way, but starts to creep up. It goes up a little bit. We get used to that, and then it goes up a little more. And before you know it, you're at a number you've never seen before.
And I was tired. Throughout my whole day of operating, seeing patients, I just wanted to go home and just do nothing. And here are my kids, right? My kids were getting older. They're 11 and 13 now. They were becoming more active. They play basketball. They play soccer. My daughter's dream is to become a professional soccer player, and she's really good.
Good for her.
But then I kept on thinking to myself, here I am. It's like a rat race, right? How was I supposed to keep up with my kids? How am I myself supposed to stay healthy for them, for me, and do what I needed to do to prevent chronic illness, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and taking endless prescription medicine, right? So
Right.
I remember trying all the new diets. You got your low fat, you got your keto, you got your intermittent fasting. I felt I did everything and nothing was sustainable. So I always ended up back to where I started. And I felt like I had to do something, and that something has just become my passion to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So how it all started was one day a good friend of mine, her son plays basketball with my son, and every time I saw her, she just looked more toned and lean. She was always modest, so she always wore sweats, and it was just very difficult to see kind of what she's been up to. But she's always been athletic. But finally, she just told me she got into bodybuilding and was looking forward to getting on stage for a competition for the first time.
Oh my
And
God.
so, yeah, so she showed me the pictures of her time in preparation for her show. And it looked so amazing. And one day she just encouraged me, hey, come to the gym, come to my gym. It was a smaller gym, but she said, come to it. There's an open house, meet my trainer, meet my nutrition show prep coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, I did. And all of a sudden it was an appointment. I started going there. I met one of their trainers, and I literally was just, that's it. I was locked in.
Yeah.
I knew that in order for me to change, I had to have some carrot dangling in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and something that just sort of seemed so far-fetched of a goal that I had to do it. So with the help of my trainer, of course, my family, my husband, and my patients, right? I started this in November of 2021 to
Okay.
prepare for my first bodybuilding bikini show, and which was planned for September 2022.
Okay.
And it was really tough. Kristen, I went from eating 1 to 2 meals a day to eating 6 meals a day.
Oh my gosh. To
I
build the
went
muscle.
Yes, I went from drinking no water to a gallon of water. I went from, so you can imagine you're a surgeon
Yep.
and needing in the operating room, like,
Constantly
just,
drinking. Yep.
yes, yes, to the point where I had to get my gallon in. So I just waited till
Mm-hmm.
after I was done. But then I was up all night
Right.
going up to the bathroom.
Then you need to come see me for
Yeah, exactly,
for urinating
exactly.
too much.
Oh my gosh, exactly. But I went from eating 50 grams of protein to 150 grams of
Wow.
protein.
Mm-hmm.
But I was taught that in order to build muscle, I had to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And my nutrition plan included whole foods. I was cooking for myself, clean food, no processed foods. I went from doing extreme cardio, like running as fast as I can, to really low intensity,
Mm-hmm.
steady cardio, but really focusing on training different muscle groups each day.
Mm-hmm.
I had a trainer who I met 4 days a week for an hour of training, and I learned how really important progressive overload training was to build muscle. Again, it was the toughest thing to go through as I started, but not only did I see the weight steadily drop, but I became lean.
Mm-hmm.
And as I leaned, I began noticing my muscles just popping. And that was just a huge difference from the previous diets I had done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did I look amazing, but I felt amazing. I felt strong. The weights in the gym became heavier and heavier.
Yep.
Showtime prep was in full motion.
Oh
I,
wow.
I honestly I didn't know what I was in for, but I
Mm-hmm.
just remember my first show and how amazing I thought I looked. But now, after doing my fifth show last year,
Yep.
I look back at my first show and thought that was the worst I'd ever
Looking
looked in
like
the
that.
last 3 years. I had no muscle.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was
That's
just
funny.
lean, but no muscle. But throughout these 3 years, I built muscle and I built muscle. And I have to tell you, I have not felt, this is the best I've felt in a, in my, I feel like in my whole life,
Right.
even when
That's
I was 20 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. That's fabulous. And I have a friend of mine who does anti-aging medicine out in California, Dr. Melinda Silva. She has a similar journey where
Yeah,
at an older age, I think she was 50 when she started training. And then she started winning, going into her competitions and winning. And it just motivated her to do more. And she would say, the prep leading up to the actual show is not very sustainable because you're really trying to lean down to show the muscle. But
correct.
the training was, is what she wanted. The shows were just fun, once she started competing, she
Exactly.
really enjoyed it.
Exactly. The best time is actually in the off season when
Mhm.
you get more food, you're training more, you're training heavier, but you just have more time. You just have
Right.
more time to focus on your form and, like I said, that progressive training and just lifting heavier.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, for most of your patients and most people, they're not necessarily going to want to do muscle training to compete in a show, right? Or
Correct.
to do bodybuilding. But we should all want to do muscle training for our health and for aging well and for all the benefits that come with it. And not the least of which is cancer reduction, because we
Right.
know not just breast cancer, but so many cancers are stimulated by inflammation, and
Yes.
your diet leads to that. Tell
Yes.
us how weight training or muscle training can help, reduce cancer risks by improving inflammation.
So not just cancer risk, but just as a whole. I don't know if you know Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I just been so in tune. I started reading her book, following her, but she's a board certified family medicine physician. She wrote the book Forever Strong.
Mm-hmm.
She has helped her patients in coming up with a method called muscle centric medicine,
Mm-hmm.
which she shifts the focus away really from reactively treating disease, but to proactively focusing on that biggest organ in your body, which is your skeletal muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So she really stresses, and I love it. She stresses that muscle is the key to longevity.
Hmm.
And she stresses that it's our body armor.
Yeah.
She explains that it's the key to metabolic health. When you increase your healthy muscle mass, you're not only changing your body's physical structure
Mhm.
and how you look, but also it directs how your body uses both food and energy. So, with strengthening your muscles, you increase the density of muscle mitochondria.
Mhm.
Going back to simple biology.
Science. Yep.
I know it's hard, but I feel like I have to mention it. But as you know, mitochondria is that primary energy producing unit within every cell in your body, right? So when you include muscle mitochondria, when you increase it, you allow your body to use all the nutrients you take in, including all the carbs and the fats, and you convert that energy that helps you power your everyday activities. However, when your body has weaker muscles, it is less effective in metabolism, right? And most of what you eat will then get stored into fat cells, leading to metabolic dysfunction, which guess what? Leads to chronic fatigue, insulin resistance, immune dysfunction, and will essentially limit your daily activities.
Hmm.
And I know you know this, but as you age, your muscles begin to decline steadily, right? So it's called sarcopenia. And without consistent muscle training, we know that adults will lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass every decade. After age 30, this loss accelerates 5 to 10% after age 50. And as your muscle declines, your bones fall right behind, leading
Hmm.
to osteopenia, osteoporosis. You then become more at a risk of imbalance, falls, and eventually will need a walker or wheelchair or even end up bedridden, right? So,
Right.
Chris, I don't know about you, but I would rather be the oldest person at the gym doing squats
Yep.
than the youngest person in the nursing home, right? So,
That's a great statement.
yeah, right.
Absolutely. I love it.
And
And
I
I
got it
think,
from Instagram. I can't
I
even
love
fake
it.
that.
Well, that's all right. At least you're quoting it. And I'm telling people all the time that it's maintaining that muscle and preventing that sarcopenia, right? That frailty that normally
Yes.
happens as we age. It's not so much we're really trying to make sure that you don't have a major event that causes a downfall in your life. And I'm sure we've both seen it where a seemingly relatively healthy older person has a fall And they don't die from the fall, but because they're laid up from the fall, as they heal, they get a blood clot, or they get a pneumonia, or they get something else. And you start to see this spiraling down of their health. One thing leads to the next, but it all went back to that fall that they had. And so trying to prevent frailty and prevent falls is so critical. It's one of the number one reasons why people get into nursing homes and assisted living when they get older, because they can't do for themselves. And nobody wants that for themselves as they age.
Right. And as you talked about preventing that fall, so as you age, just one little curbside, whatchamacallit, just one little curbside, what am I trying to say? Slip, yes, slip.
Yeah.
And
Something
you're
that
not
when you were
able
younger,
to
you would just
reflex.
step, you would just
Exactly.
have a little step over it, not even notice it.
Just that reflex with your muscle, right?
Yep.
And as you age, you don't have that anymore. And there you go. There's a hip fracture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean,
But
even if people say, oh, I had to have a hip replacement, I fractured my hip, and they survived the surgery, but now they're, debilitated, they can't walk as much, or now they say, well, I can't work out anymore because, my hip hurts, or I can't do this. And that's really the beginning of their decline.
right.
And you see them age so rapidly from that.
Right. Now, as far as breast health, as I'm a breast surgeon, we know for a fact that obesity is linked to cancer and that body fat is a modifiable risk factor. So, excess fat cells in our body can cause an overproduction of inflammatory enzymes called cytokines, which is normal, but it's just that overproduction that can cause mutations in our breast cells, increasing the chance of developing cancer cells. So our immune system repairs those mutations every second of the day to prevent against cancer, which is why our muscles is very important in producing enzymes. As you know, you probably know myokines that are anti-inflammatory and is actually protective against cancer. So I'd like to quote Dr. Lyon again. I mean, muscle is our body armor. It's our defense against chronic illness such as cancer. Now, if someone happens to be diagnosed with breast cancer, studies are showing that those with lower muscle mass will have a higher chance of dying from cancer, either from advanced disease or just complications of treatment itself.
Right. And we know that cancer is a break in that, like you said, cells are constantly being repaired, and sometimes a cell can't be repaired just with time, right? Our cells have to constantly divide as we age, and they get it right a lot of the times, but sometimes they screw up, right? We're not machines, and everything doesn't work perfectly, but the goal is to try not to have a ton of other risk factors that make it easier for the cell's DNA to be broken as they multiply. And that's where that balance of those enzymes, the protective ones that come from the muscle and the inflammatory ones that come from the fat cells, is so important. What's the environment when a cell develops cancer? What environment is it in? Is it in an environment that's going to feed that cancer or kind of shut it down?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I want to shut it down.
Oh, definitely. Yes, for sure. So then let's talk about your average patient who, again, doesn't want to necessarily do bodybuilding per se. What kind of day-to-day activities do you recommend to help them start to build muscle and get all of these protective enzymes?
So I really, when I talk to them, they see me and they're like, "Oh, Dr. McCray, you look great, but I don't know about the gym." And I feel it's so important to change that mindset, right? People say they don't want to bodybuild because they don't want to appear bulky or they don't want to look like a man, but I feel like we just really have to change that thinking in our patients and really have them start believing in muscle strength to reverse the effects of aging. And as we talked about, sarcopenia, muscle breakdown, osteopenia, bone breakdown, hormone imbalance. I mean, we haven't even talked about hormone imbalance.
Right. We haven't even gotten there yet.
I know. Decreasing immunity, metabolic dysfunction, all of this leads to chronic illness and premature death. So I feel it's just so important, and especially in my role as a cancer doctor, to really focus on muscle, not for physical looks, but to reverse aging, to prevent chronic illnesses, to help prevent breast cancer. We really have to hone in on that. But for those who truly don't, and my older women, I usually say, look, how about just doing standing against a wall and doing a chair squat, right? Or maybe doing 10 to 20 air squats a couple times per day. Start small.
Body
Take
weight
body
activity
weight.
they can do
Yes.
anywhere.
Take a walk. Take a brisk walk during lunch. A lot of people are working from home
Yep.
or after work. Just get your heart rate up. If you're working from home, get a standing desk. Don't sit. Even, for ones that are a little bit more motivated, get a lightweighted vest and bring it to work just to add a little bit of resistance. If you're a little bit more motivated, then just get a resistance band and do a quick 10 rep set with maybe 10 or 5 10-pound resistant bands, and do some bicep curls, maybe some reverse lunges, maybe. But do that in between your tasks, because we get that too, right? I just don't have time. I'm
Right.
at work. I'm at, but you can go and get a cup of coffee and chit chat, while you're chit chatting.
Right.
You and your coworkers do some reps. And it's so easy to just bring that resistance band. Trust me, I have brought resistance bands. I've brought 5-pound weights, 10-pound weights to work, and they're using it. And they're, and during lunch, it's like, you're either eating lunch or you're going for a walk. I even have some of the girls walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've started this New Year's 12-week challenge in my office. I hired my own trainer to see every person that wanted to do this. There's 10 of us that are doing this. And he put together a personalized meal plan, nutrition plan, and exercise plan for all my girls in the office, 10 of them. And in this 12-week challenge, every other week, he comes to the office and does a check-in, ask them how they're doing, does their weight, does their measurements, takes pictures, and he'll adjust their meal plans and exercise plans accordingly.
Right.
So it is amazing, Kristen, to see in the office how everybody's encouraging each other, how they're eating. There's no more Chick-fil-A, there's no more McDonald's, there's no more pizza. They're coming with egg whites, they're coming with chicken, like rice cakes.
Right. That's
Like,
so great.
Greek yogurt. I mean, it's amazing. And salad, and they're talking to each other about how to cook things and how to season things. It's amazing. It's been 2 weeks now. So they just had their second check-in. We've seen inches go down, we've seen weight go down. It's really fun to see. Even this morning, I met with 4 of them at the gym to help them with their form and their exercise. And so I did really work them out, and but they had fun. They were like, Dr. McCray, if we come in Monday and we can't room patients, it's all your fault because we can't walk.
We're too sore. You worked us too hard.
Exactly. It's awesome. It's awesome.
That
Anyways,
is great.
but
Oh my gosh. So I love how you bring that into your practice. I mean, obviously it's a part of your lifestyle, but
it
you're
is.
sharing that, and not only, doing what's best for you, but sharing it with your staff, and I'm sure with your patients as well.
It is. Oh, yes, we do. It's especially with my follow-up patients. We go over all their mammograms and, but the most important thing, I try and spend at least a little bit of time discussing, what they're doing nutrition-wise, how they're exercising, and just really trying to build that up, because
Right.
I stress to them, exercise is what's going to help decrease their risk of breast cancer or recurrent cancer. And we know
Right.
that studies have shown that.
I think with anything, if you want to prioritize it, you will. I'm guilty of it as well, saying, I'm so busy, I don't have time. I don't have time. I personally am someone who dislikes the travel to the gym. I'm a big workout at home person.
Yeah.
Because I can then just, be like, all right, I'll work out on whatever I've got on right now and jump in the shower when I'm done. And I don't have to waste time traveling to and from, but my weights are at home. My kettlebell is at home. I open up my, the video I'm going to watch and do my thing, and I'm done.
Exactly.
So it helps me, at least from my mindset, not to make it be too much of a big deal, right? It's not a whole event I have to do. It's just one more thing that I check off of my to-do list that I've done today.
And we know exercise releases dopamine. And so as you get into your journey of exercising and feeling good, I think as you form habits, right? Good habits especially, it takes a little bit of time, but then it just becomes your daily routine, and you can't even You can't even not do it because then you don't feel right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and we all know we want to do things that continue to make us feel good. And not only do you feel good, but when you start looking better, and I think there's
Yes.
nothing that makes us look better than muscle. And it's not about being bulky or looking like a man as a woman or any of those things. When you have lean muscle, you feel good. You don't care as much about the number on the scale because you look good in your clothing, you feel good when you move. And those are important things day to day rather than whatever number the scale says.
Right. Right. And even when I'm at my leanest or whatever, I just go out. I wear sweats. I don't wear makeup. I don't even, do my hair because I know I look good.
Yeah, because
I'm
you feel
lean.
good
I
and you
look
look
good.
good, and who needs it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel good. Exactly. Exactly. It's that confidence booster, I'll tell you.
It is, right. Now, when we do a lot of weight loss in our clinic as well, and we're always talking to them about weight loss is not in isolation. You don't just do something for weight loss. Again, it's a big lifestyle change. It's
Right.
helping maintain a healthy weight. It's something to build muscle. And to build that muscle, we need the building blocks of muscle, which is protein.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you recommend patients intake protein, because you talked about those high levels of protein when you were training that
Yes.
obviously are critical. You cannot build muscle without protein to actually put into the muscle cells.
Right. So I really can't stress enough how important nutrition is. Of course, you can't make muscle if you don't have the amino acids in your system to help generate it. So the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance, recommends 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. So let's take your 150-pound woman, that would be only 55 grams. Now, this is the amount to just maintain
Minimal
the
amount.
nitrogen balance. Yes, to prevent muscle wasting
Right.
in a sedentary person, right? So again, this is not enough to build and strengthen muscle when you start to train it. Now, studies show that adults should be taking nearly twice that. 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So that per day. So that's for that 150-pound woman, you're looking at 105, 110 grams of protein per day. There is, I just looked up the 2023 International Society of Sports Nutrition actually ups that. So that's more so if you're really training,
Right.
that it should fall between 1.4 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram per day. But I think it's very important to evenly distribute that. So split the protein doses in in at least 4 if you could do it, but if you can hit 6 meals per day and evenly distribute that and taking that in, at least 3 to 4 hours per day throughout the week, throughout the day, that is really going to help with that metabolism.
Right. If you're aiming for 100 grams of protein a day in your normal 3 meals, that's 30 grams, 30 plus
Yeah.
grams, right, per
Yeah.
meal. That's a lot to get
That's a
in.
lot.
But if you
Right.
can divide it by 6, it makes it much easier, right, to
Yes.
get that throughout the day. And then I don't know if you've also seen the studies that as people age in general, those minimal daily recommended amounts go up.
Yeah.
So actually an older person, because I deal with a lot of patients, 65 and up, 70 and up, they need more just to meet that minimum balance of not
Right.
wasting their muscle. So they're going to need, some studies show 0.9 to 1.2 just as the minimum balance.
Right.
Unfortunately, we both know that sometimes what the recommendation is not the most optimal for health, right? That's
Right.
just keeping you alive is the way I
Right.
say. That's how much you need to
Exactly.
stay alive.
Right.
But we
Right.
want you to be amazing and feel great and build
Right.
muscle and prevent disease. And for that amount, it really is up much higher.
Much higher.
So how can
Yes.
patients get that kind of protein throughout the day?
As I start this, there are a lot of ways. I started eating it's called ratio yogurt. It
Okay.
comes in many flavors. It's high protein, 25 grams of protein. You're going to start getting, your sweet tooth is really going to start to turn on you, and you want to get things that you want to eat fruits, of course, and get it split between all those meals. But chicken, I use a 96 to 97% lean ground beef. Fish, shrimp. I eat a lot of any kind of fish, cod, salmon, fish.
For your heart,
I do. Yes, I do advise to try and cook it yourself. I love the air fryer. I love the oven, well seasoned. I try and stay away from the more fattier like pork. I do like ground turkey, but I think the most important thing is to try and mix it up so that you don't get bored with it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, definitely. But I think I'm starting to see just in the general grocery stores, a focus more on protein. People are advertising high protein. I mean, I'm always trying to at least educate people, look at the label, look at that ratio of
Yes.
protein to sugars. You want to make sure high protein, low sugar, and how can you get that in? So obviously there are Greek yogurt options and
Yes.
cottage cheese options and
Yes.
obviously all the lean meat options, but at least having if you have protein in your mind first. I said, try not, people get so bogged down with what type of diet should I do? What food is good and what food is bad? And I say, just focus on your protein source. Focus on getting your protein source throughout the day. It's going to fill you up, and
Right.
fiber, I think, as well. Keep your bowels
Yes.
moving. And yes, very important. That's the stuff that's going to fill you up. Then you don't have to worry what your other calories are coming from because you're eating so much protein anyway. You won't need
Right.
it.
Right.
You don't
Right.
need to fill
Right.
up calories on anything else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So like you
exactly.
said, maybe eating your proteins first in every meal.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And then
Yes.
letting that get in. And I mean, there are so many tricks for it, eating slower so that your brain has time to actually recognize when you're full. There's all kinds of things that patients can.
Hydrating, drink water.
Hydrating,
Yeah.
absolutely, getting your fluids in. So
Yeah.
then you mentioned before as well, we talked about we need the amino acids to build our muscle, and that comes from protein. We need the resistance training to actually hypertrophy, which means build the muscle, right? Get it stronger. But then talk about hormones. How important are they in muscle building?
They're very important. So, um, I believe in good fats in helping to hormone balance your nuts, your cashews,
Mhm.
avocados. Avocados are so good. Um, Olive oil for hormone balance.
Mhm.
Good nutrition, like we talked about, hydrating, sleep, exercising, de-stressing, right? So that's why I like to go to the gym because that's my de-stress.
Mhm.
When you adjust your protein intake and prioritize training to meet those metabolic goals, not only do you slow the effects of aging, but you're also slowing the decline of your natural steroids, right, Kristen? So testosterone, we know, is the male sex hormone, and it's commonly associated with muscle building in men, but many people may not know this. However, testosterone is vital for women too,
Right,
right?
of
It
course.
supports cognition, bone density, muscle tone, and helps prevent cardiovascular disease. So I think strength training improves the natural production of our natural hormones that we make. In females, women do produce a significantly lower amount of testosterone than men. But
Mhm.
during weight training, you have your gland in the brain. We know this, the pituitary gland that stimulates the release of other hormones, luteinizing hormone, follicular stimulating hormone.
Mhm.
Going back to
Uh-oh. Basic endocrinology.
med school, I know, but that stimulates the ovaries to produce our hormones. This is only half of the production of hormones in women. The other half we rely on our adrenal glands. We know
Mhm.
the adrenal glands are glands that I tell patients they're glands that hug the kidney, each kidney. And the adrenal gland produces a precursor hormone that is converted into testosterone in certain tissues, such as muscle.
Mhm.
The other half, this type of production is very important in women going through menopause. I'm afraid. I am afraid of menopause. I know I'm getting there. I'm getting there, but I am really afraid of menopause. And that this is something else that has really encouraged me to bodybuild and strengthen my muscle is my fear of menopause.
Mhm.
So either naturally or surgically, when we build muscle, that level of testosterone helps stimulate protein synthesis, right? So, this process where muscle fibers are repaired and regenerated after exercise leads to increased protein production and that mass within the muscle fibers. So, it's really important to for muscle building to really help balance those hormones that we
Right.
will naturally start to lose.
Yeah. It's so true. And, I work with perimenopausal and newly menopausal and, late menopausal women all the time. But
Right.
those women going through the menopausal transition and newly menopausal women, they all have the same complaints when they talk about exercise and weight. They're gaining weight around their middle. The exercise
Mm-hmm.
that they've been doing their routine their entire life is no longer serving them. They can't build their muscle anymore because, when you're 22 and you go to the gym once and you pick up weights, your hormones are so optimal at that time. You look great. Pow, everything pops, right? After one
Right.
workout in the gym. And then you work out at 45 and you're like, you work out every single day and you're like, where are my muscles? Why aren't I seeing the same gains that I saw in my 20s? And that can be directly related to that different hormonal status that you're in. It's a different
Right.
hormonal
It's
environment.
different.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Which is
So
why it's important to start early.
yes,
But
exactly. So you are starting premenopausally and you are building up your body armor, as you said, right? You're
right.
putting down layers upon layers of body armor to try to slow that hormonal change that's going to happen to every woman as if we're old enough to go through menopause. But that doesn't mean that women who are going through menopause or have already gone through menopause should not start. You
Correct.
absolutely can still begin
Absolutely.
at that time. And
Yes.
that's when people should see someone who talks to them about hormone balance and muscle building and protein intake, because it's all part of the it's all part of how we age better over time and how we reduce chronic disease.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. I mean, you obviously are probably very well versed on all the studies about cancer, breast cancer specifically, right? And nutrition and muscle and healthy lifestyle changes. You also spoke to things like good sleep and stress reduction because those are so critical and get harder and harder as we get old. But can you tell me more about how good sleep and stress reduction actually helps us in prevention of cancer and also building that physique that people want?
It really just goes back to just the hormone balance and your immunity. We know that stress can cause all those inflammatory enzymes too, right? And nobody exactly knows the right science or the science behind it, but having calmness emotionally, mentally, just really, I feel just really helps with your immunity and, like I said, just hormone imbalance.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland makes so many important hormones for us throughout our life, but cortisol is a big one. And
Yes,
cortisol, I always feel like gets a bad rap because it is the stress hormone and people are always, kind of down on cortisol. Cortisol serves a vital role in our body. We absolutely
right.
can't be alive without cortisol. But unfortunately, when cortisol is either chronically elevated or the spikes of the cortisol are too high, then that's when we get into damaging situations. So nothing that we're talking about, fat inherently is not bad. Cortisol inherently is not bad, but having too much
Too
of
much.
some of these things, right? Or having a bad balance of these things, too much fat with not enough muscle, too much cortisol without enough progesterone in women. Progesterone is such a calming hormone, getting that cortisol to come to a healthy level and not be chronically elevated. And that's not something that we can treat necessarily with medicine. I think you spoke about it before, taking a walk in nature, meditating, listening to
Mhm.
music, yoga. Those things all bring our cortisol levels into healthy balance. And those are things anybody can do that we don't have to just take a pill for.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, I love
Exactly.
it. This has been so great. I always love hearing from cancer doctors, of course. Now, as you probably know, your colleagues, not all cancer doctors look at the entirety of a patient's life, right? A lot of them are just go in, cut the cancer out, I'm done, right? I
Right.
helped my
Right.
patient. And they certainly have, but it's so important to look at the entire life because cancer doctors do such a great job now taking the cancer out. Patients live years and years and years after their cancer. And then the question is, what's the quality of life that they live for so many more
Right.
years? So
Right.
breast cancer specifically, we're hopefully doing better, screening better, finding it earlier, removing it before patients have, severe outcomes from it. But now these women are going to live for many, many years post cancer, and we don't want them to be, dying from other diseases, heart disease and osteoporosis, falls that
And,
lead to all of the medical things.
and I mean, and the effects of treatment. I mean, my surgery is not without any side effects or complications. I'm not going to deny that.
Hmm.
But our anti-hormone treatments
Yeah.
for our hormone positive cancers, our chemotherapy, our radiation. Yes,
Right.
we're safe. Yes, we've saved you from breast cancer. But what can we do now to get you back to a healthy lifestyle? What can we do now to help reverse all of the side effects that we've already caused because we were saving your life?
Right.
We want to get you back to living a good quality of life. And
Right.
I feel that is even as important as treating the cancer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what would you say your average age of a patient that you're treating a breast cancer for is?
It's getting younger and younger.
Mhm.
Probably average age is probably still between 40s and 50s. But,
Okay.
my youngest patient was 22 years old. My oldest that I operated on was 100.
Yep.
So it's a range, but probably about 50s is my
50s,
average.
right.
Yeah.
So for women, I mean, average lifespan to 83, something like that for women. That means after that you save their life from breast cancer, age say 50, just to have a round number, they're going to have 40 more years of life.
Yes.
But what kind of life? We could do a whole nother talk. We'll bring you back and talk about the effects of
Yes.
anti-hormone treatment post
Yes.
breast cancer on women's health.
We
It
definitely will need to talk about
Oh my
that.
gosh,
Yes.
that's a huge topic because it negatively affects their heart, it negatively affects their bones, and it often can, even though it's saving their lives from breast cancer, it can often put them at risk for so many other chronic diseases as they age that may end up killing them anyway. So I think we need to have surgeons and doctors taking a bigger look at what's the balance, right? How do we reach
Right.
that balance of course, we want to do things that prevent recurrence of cancer after we've treated someone, but we also want to make sure that we're not making her sick in another way.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's so great. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been great.
Yes.
To you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. No information from this recording is intended as a diagnosis or treatment for any disease. If you are enjoying the show, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our exciting episodes. And we love to hear from our listeners and would be grateful for your positive review. We'll talk next time.